Thank you all for being here. My name is Shannon Rose McAuliffe. I'm the manager of the student arts programs at MIT, and we're all here today to kick off the 2020-2021 15K Creative Arts Competition. We'll have a series of workshops, a really thorough application session with some feedback, one-on-one mentoring, and lots of things like pitch critiques to help everybody, no matter where they are with their venture, to enable them to succeed. So I'm really excited to kick things off. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Wendy, Swart, Grossman, and Jen Guillemin from Creative Reframe.
Hello, MIT.
Hey.
We're so happy to be here. I am Jen Guillemin.
And I am Wendy Swart Grossman. And we are so honored to be with you today here at MIT. And I want to start with a story about the first entrepreneur I ever met who trusted his instincts, took on risk, invested in his employees, and challenged conventional wisdom with humor and brilliance. It was my brother. The summer my brother Martin was 9 years old, he had a crazy successful lemonade stand in front of our house. He made so much money, it kept him in candy bars and comic books throughout the long winter. And based on this early success at 9, the next summer when he turned 10, he expanded. He franchised his lemonade stands, and he had 3 of them around the neighborhood that were run by his trusted buddies. And when he was 11, he branched out to the local beach, and he would sell cans of ice cold sodas to the sunbathers for, a 50% markup per can. He was so successful, he was shut down by the Park and Rec police because he didn't have a peddler's license. But he didn't just go away, not my brother, man. He set up his wagon full of coolers on the far side of the street and had his staff of middle schoolers fan the beach, taking orders. Yep, Martin delivered. He was a brilliant man, but not in a conventional way. In fact, he barely graduated from high school because he was too busy with the company that he started at age 16. He had one of these curious, nimble minds, and he was hungry, and he saw a hole in the market. And the floor cleaning business that he started grew to be the largest floor cleaning, buffing, and waxing company in Southern California, called Floor Tech. He had a fleet of trucks and hundreds of crew members, making him a millionaire by the time he was 26. There are so many ways to be creative in starting your business, your own venture, and just as many reasons why people feel compelled to put something new in the world. For my brother, he loved money. The more the better. In fact, he would iron his dollar bills in order to fit more of them into his wallet. To him, it was a fascinating game. He also loved creating networks and talking to people, similar to myself, and giving his employees opportunities to change their lot in life by offering them real wages. And I'm an entrepreneur myself, but my bottom line isn't money. I'm motivated by how many people I can touch and help and organize. My return on investment is measured not only by profit, but on the social return on investment, known as the triple bottom line. Yes, profit, but people and planet as well. While my brother was busy making his millions, I was a political organizer, tapping into my superpower of connection by working on presidential campaigns and then pivoting to nonprofits. And now I am both an educator and co-founder with Jen of a creative consulting startup. I needed to trust what motivated me. But enough about me, enough about my brother. What we're here for is to talk about you. What is important here is understanding and tapping into what it is that motivates you. Where do you have and where do you find what Jen and I have coined as your KIP? Your care. What do you care about? What issue is it that interests you? What ideas do you have? And where is your passion? Because the more you understand and trust your motivation for doing what you do, the more authentic, the more connected, and the more meaningful your work becomes. And this is what the 15K Creative Arts Competition here at MIT is really all about. It's about giving you the tools and the incentives you need to start your own creative venture. We know that the best ventures are those that solve not only real problems, but are attached to a passion that you, as the founder, holds.
When I moved to Boston in the mid-90s, I went to a community arts event and I met a person who changed the course of my life. His name was Sidewalk Sam, and he was an artist, a provocateur, a visionary, and the first creative entrepreneur I ever met. If you were living in Boston in the mid-90s, you would know exactly the person that I'm talking about. Sidewalk Sam was trained as an artist and wanted to make his living being an artist. He started out as a kind of in a traditional way of having a studio and working with galleries, but that didn't work for him. He wanted something else, so he carved out his own unique niche as a street artist. He began using chalk to draw replicas of famous masterpieces on the sidewalks throughout Boston. And as his fame grew, so did his client base and corporate sponsors. The streets of Boston became his canvas. In 1990, 5 years before I met him, the mayor of Boston was trying to figure out how to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Earth Day. Sidewalk Sam made a proposal. He said, I know, I have an idea. Let's shut down the streets, a major thoroughfare, Stroher Drive in Boston, paint it with biodegradable paint, and invite all the people of Boston to come out and draw flowers and trees and butterflies, turning a highway into an urban meadow. When they looked at him like he was crazy and asked how he thought they might pay for this, he was 2 steps ahead of them. He had already secured Dunkin' Donuts as a corporate sponsor. Thousands of people came out to the streets that day and drew pictures on Stroher Drive. The genius of Sidewalk Sam was his ability to leverage the transformative power of the arts to create community in partnership with local businesses. His sponsors achieved their strategic business objectives while supporting Sidewalk Sam, and he was able to achieve his mission of bringing art to the people. I should mention, as a bit of a disclaimer, that I spent a lot of time with Sidewalk Sam over the years because I ended up marrying his son in the late 90s. And together we volunteered at hundreds of events over the course of 2 decades. Throughout his career, Sidewalk Sam's events became more and more participatory in nature as he espoused the belief that everyone is an artist. To him, the arts weren't rarefied and only for the elite. The arts were alive and they were for all of us to share. At one festival in downtown Boston, I volunteered to hand out chalk. A man was walking past and he reluctantly agreed to take a piece of chalk and draw on the sidewalk. However, when he started drawing, his whole demeanor changed. Usually people draw for maybe 5 minutes. He ended up staying and drawing for a full hour. And when he returned the chalk to me, he had tears in his eyes. He explained to me that he worked his whole life in insurance and he loved to draw as a kid, and he only that day remembered how much he missed it. Something opened up in him that day, and that was the magic of Sidewalk Sam. His form of entrepreneurship was to create environments that change hearts and minds. Sidewalk Sam made his living doing what he loved, which is not easy in the arts, and his return on investment was collective joy. He changed lives by helping people unlock their personal creativity. And he certainly influenced me because I became an entrepreneur, working within a university to create programs and courses for art students so they too could find ways to unlock their creative purpose.
Whether you relate more to Martin the Millionaire's story or Sidewalk Sam's model of the importance of putting something out in the world that taps into connection and creativity, it really doesn't matter because they're both incredibly important and they're both equally valid. There is room at the table for all the reasons people show up and are motivated to create. And there really is no better place to explore this than MIT. Math, science, technology, but also arts resources like the one that this very 15K creative arts competition represents through the Arts at MIT programming. What Jen and I have found from working in the innovation and entrepreneurship spaces is the importance of this type of cross-disciplinary thinking, and that all starts with having the diversity of ideas and the skill sets to get it out there. So while right now you may just have a hint of an idea, it's crucial to say it aloud and to talk with others about it and to think broadly about what skills will be needed to put this idea that's hatching into action. Taking inventory of yourself and being incredibly honest of the skills you come to the table with and what it is you need that you don't have. Then finding others that share your big goal, your big dream, but come at it from really different entry points, as this will only make your finished project that much better. For example, Jen and I have crazy different backgrounds. So Jen has this incredibly rich career in both higher education and the arts world. And I come from a political background, as I mentioned. But together, we started a company, but we also knew that we needed help from other folks. So we reached out to the Small Business Development Administration in downtown Boston and met with their volunteer teams of lawyers and business advisors. And then we hired a designer to get our website up and running. And now we employ other incredible people who help us with the pieces that they love and are really good at, including social media, database management, and marketing. So as you're thinking about your venture that might be brewing in the back of your head, think about what makes for a powerful combination. What are your superpowers? And be honest. And who can help fill in the holes with their superpowers? But we need to get real. We need to really talk and address the elephant in the room. And unfortunately, it's more like a whole herd of elephants. We are 9 days away from the most important election in 100 or more years. 220,000 people have died in the US alone from COVID-19, and over 1 million have died across our shared planet. Disparity between the haves and the have-nots is huge, and unfortunately, it's growing. And of course, this is all playing out with the backdrop of a world that is on fire. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? It's nutty. But we're here to tell you that there is hope and there is inspiration. And what we are finding is that creativity is alive and well. Human beings are programmed to be in community, to live, to inspire, to pivot and grow. And this provides all of us with the incredible hope and inspiration we all need to get ourselves out of bed. We as a nation are turning to the arts and to creative problem solvers as our salve, our balm, our hope. One of the projects that Jen and I work on at Creative Reframe is called 100 Conversations. Launched in the summer of 2019, the two of us would jump on our bikes and tool around Boston, meeting with individual, inspirational, creative practitioners, artists, and thought leaders in order to help build a culture of creativity around their shared stories, making connections, and building community. This, of course, is now morphed into socially distanced conversations and Zoom calls. And we are documenting how these same incredible arts leaders are pivoting, thinking broader, and being, in many ways, even more impactful. One of these conversations was with the Arts at MIT's very own Shannon Rose, who, in addition to adding her brilliance to MIT, she's a singer and a co-founder of Festina, bringing gorgeous, uplifting church music to congregations across New England. Thanks to COVID, they have pivoted to a unique niche and have had thousands of hits for a piece they have done setting the CDC COVID guidelines to liturgical music. Check out the chat box for the link. In addition to Festina, we've had conversations with arts administrators, entrepreneurs, muralists, and musicians. And while our current situation is less than ideal, to paraphrase Toni Morrison, this is precisely the time that creatives go to work. There's no time for despair, no time for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal.
For 10 years, Wendy and I have been teaching courses on cultural entrepreneurship and the creative economy to millennials and Gen Z students. Initially, our goal was to provide art students with basic business skills to help them build sustainable careers in the arts. But what we found was that students from across the university, business, computer science, even engineering, were signing up for our classes too. Even if they didn't plan on going into the creative professions, they were drawn to the class, and we wondered why. Well, we learned that these students craved opportunities to be creative and to work across disciplines and think of new ways that they can both make money while doing something that was meaningful to them. We were teaching something they were not getting in some of their other courses, reminding us once again that arts and creativity are really inherent to what it means to be human. Our class helps students create and launch ventures that reside at the intersection of arts and culture, business and technology, and social impact. And we know that your generation has the capacity to reimagine better jobs of the future. And what better place to explore this convergence of arts and technology than right here at MIT? At Creative Reframe, we have a saying, and it goes like this: make like an artist, care like an activist, strategize like an entrepreneur, and implement like an organizer. So as you begin your journey in the 15K Creative Arts Competition, we leave you with 4 key takeaways. Make. Trust your creative vision. Don't be afraid to think differently. Invite disruption. Find a need and think about your unique approach to meeting that need. Think about your KIP, as Wendy mentioned earlier, your care, idea, issue, passion, because it is your KIP that is your fuel. It is what will help you get through sleepless nights, rejection, and the grueling work that comes hand in hand with creating a startup. For Martin, he knew exactly what people wanted on that hot beach during the summer. For Sidewalk Sam, he recognized the need for creativity in everyday life. At Creative Reframe, we care about integrating arts and innovation spaces. What is your creative vision? Care. Get other people excited and get other people to care about your vision. Find others who want to share your passion and build your team. People are attracted to purpose and a clear vision. The research shows that most people find meaning and purpose when they're part of something bigger than themselves. So, with that in mind, how might your venture consider the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit? By attaching yourself to a greater purpose, people are more likely to join you in implementing that vision. Whether it was Martin's team of helpers combing that beach or Sidewalk Sam's participants who rediscovered art after many years, these are the things that you could be doing when your KIP is steeped in meaning. You can find and build ventures that not only help other people's lives, but also offer you deep satisfaction. Strategize, seek, and build excellence. Build operational excellence around your idea. Put together a solid business model that you feel proud of and that meets a need, addressing not only the return on the investment, but also the social return on investment. And finally, implement. use the vast resources that are available right here at MIT and across Boston. There will be workshops and programs designed to help you build and amplify your venture so you can bring your creative vision into the spotlight. Take advantage of all of it, as you will carry these skills with you for the rest of your life. Throughout the entire process, we remind you to remember the values of thinking like an artist. Remember the power of improvisation, empathy, social imagination, and resourcefulness. In her book, The Culture of Possibility, Arlene Goldbard writes, "We need to learn to see like the most committed and skilled artists, eyes wide open, taking it all in, turning away from nothing, cultivating empathy and imagination, taking risks, admitting mistakes, and persevering." In essence, my friends, the arts and entrepreneurship are really not that different. Both rely on storytelling to express compelling narratives. Both are about taking risks and making mistakes and persevering. Whatever your entrepreneurial journey is and whatever story got you here today, we are here to say, yes, go for it. You've got this. There is so much hope and potential and opportunity at the intersection of arts and technology, and the 15K Creative Arts Competition is the perfect launching pad for you. We commend you as you set forth on your journey, and we look forward to seeing the seeds that you plant today and see how they grow over the course of the months ahead. Your work will help to reimagine the jobs, the products, and the services of the future.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Arts at MIT, for inviting Creative Reframe to help launch the 15K Creative Arts Competition.
Thank you both so much. That was fantastic. Also, your technology is so impressive. This is the best Zoom keynote that I've seen in 8 months.
Round of applause for the technician behind the kitchen table.
Beautifully done, everybody. So that was full of some really fantastic insights and a lot of motivation. I'm curious to know if anybody has any questions for Wendy and Jen, or if Wendy and Jen have any questions for others. They sort of like to turn these things upside down. So we're going to do sort of a 360 conversation before we take our break.
Well, we would like to invite some of the people here today to share your creative vision with us. If we have anybody.
Jen and I have been working in this field for a long time and working with students just like all of you to help you take these little ideas and help them launch. And we're so curious who's out there in the Zoom verse to see how we can help you as you move through it all. Anything bubbling out there?
I'll also comment that if you need a little time to sort of marinate on everything that we just discussed, our third session will also include sort of the opportunity for conversation with really wonderfully established entrepreneurs and educators. I know that we have some people in here who are studying entrepreneurship, so I'd be curious to see what the takeaways were or what's excited you about this.
And we're kind of open books. I'll talk about anything. Yeah, whatever.
Let's see. I mean, this was all really motivating, and I've got a question. It can all seem sort of like scaling Everest, when you finally got these great ideas and you finally got all of this energy, it's an awfully big uphill climb. So what are the smallest or sort of most important steps that you would say will help people to catalyze their success?
So what I usually do is it's all about ripping off your blinders, going through the world and starting to being what I call is being awake and aware, paying attention to, what's working, what's not working. Where is there like an interesting hole in the market? What do you like to do? So it really kind of depends on, sometimes you start with a problem. Sometimes you start with an idea. Sometimes you start because you're excited, and sometimes you start because you're pissed off. There's so many different fabulous organizations that have been popping up that are student-led. That was because they realized that the world was on fire, and who's going to start? Who's going to, so it's really kind of paying attention to both sides of the coin. And really, it starts with that whole inventory of, what skills do I have? What am I good at? Also paying attention to, oh, I like this. I want more of this. What is the this for you? Anything to add?
I think you did a good job covering it. I think also there are people who have these crossover interests that are really interesting.
Yes.
And I think at a place like MIT, that is something that you'll see. So you'll have somebody who has this background in engineering, but they're also really passionate about music. And so to think about like, what's happening at that intersection and what might you bring to it that is so unique about you because you have these two interests that collide in really interesting ways. So I think to be really aware of that, we think of the arts as something that can just be a source of inspiration internally, but it also could be part of your business idea, and that could launch you into a new direction.
And what we love is that whole cross-disciplinary mess. And sometimes if we were together in person, I'll be wearing name tags with different colored dots on them. One would be red, I have an idea, ask me about it. Another one would be blue, saying, I've got a lot of cool skills and I want to help you. So it's like finding the people. Sometimes we do have the idea and we don't know what to do next. Sometimes we want to work with somebody else, but we don't have the idea. So that's the trick, is being able to find each other. Because you don't want to do it alone, because that's like boring and lonely, and
these are excellent points, especially about the necessity of team building and partnership.
Yeah, definitely. And we had a question based on that. And so thinking about those kind of key partnerships, how do you know when you're ready for a partnership, and how do you go about finding those kind of key partners?
You're ready for a partnership. You always want to partner. Don't do it alone. That's a big red flag. It's not like, oh, I've got this great idea and I'm going to do it all by myself. And I'm like, oh, cringe, 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 cringe. No, you always need help. And so I'm sorry, that was the first part. What was the second part of the question? I don't know. I just got excited about finding somebody to work with.
Well, I really like your question, Theo, because I think it happens in a lot of different ways. Sometimes people really unite over a shared interest. Sometimes you just have chemistry with somebody and then you're like, oh, how can we do something together? So as just a little backstory, when Wendy and I first met, we had gone out, we didn't really know each other, and we just went out for a drink and we started talking, and then like I was asked to propose a course, and because I had such a great conversation with Wendy, I was like, I want to co-teach. I bet we'd be really good co-teaching together. And so we started that, but we didn't. And so it was just because we had a great we
like to play together. We're trying to figure out other ways that we can play.
Right.
And I'm like, I always thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to teach? Because I'm really a frustrated stand-up comic. And I thought, oh, then you have like people who have to come to your class. And then there's like, ooh, a mandatory audience. And I was like, oh, how cool. But I had never really taught before. And I had done workshops or whatever, but never a full-on course. And I'm like, I wasn't afraid to say yes. I'm like, oh, propose a university course to BU, because that's where we started. And I'm like, oh, and so it's like holding your breath and saying, yeah, I'll do that, even though I've never done it before. Oh, write a syllabus? How the heck do you do that? Just, and you do a lot of what's called, well, in the art world, it's called inspiration. But between you and I, we steal each other's stuff, right? We steal it, but then we remake it, and it's really, we are inspired. But you take other people's stuff, and then you remake it in a way that makes a lot more sense for your audience. But you got to start somewhere. Start with some kind of a framework, and that's okay. You can do that.
All right.
It's legal.
That is legal. That is okay and encouraged. I'm really delighted with this. I want to congratulate you both for your successes, and thank you so much for your generosity in sharing your insights.